Good morning, and thanks everybody for joining us for this third in our monthly webinar series presented by the District Facilities Branch. This is property part one, which is going to deal with site acquisition. Please note that there's a question and answer option at the top of your screen that you can use to ask questions. I'm going to defer answers to questions until the end of the presentation, and a survey will be sent to all the participants following the presentation. Let us know how we did, what you'd like to know about. So with that being said, next slide, please. This is a summary of our presentation. We're going to start with introductions, as we always do. We're going to provide some relevant definitions. We're going to talk about the portions of the Constitution that relate to property, statutes, legal acts, the regulation itself. We're going to talk about the process and required documents, best practices, frequent issues that we encounter, questions and answers, and if we have time, we have some sample type documents at the end. Next slide, please. So obviously, we're the Kentucky Department of Education, Commissioner Robbie Fletcher. District Facilities Branch is in the Office of Finance and Operations. Associate Commissioners Matt Ross. Within the Office of Finance and Operations is the Division of District Support. Jay Ritter is our director. Marshall Smith is our assistant director. Next slide, please. District or branch personnel. My name is Greg Dunbar. I'm the branch manager. I've been with KDE for 16 years. Next slide, please. Within the branch, we have 4 design professionals that we call project managers. Each one of our project managers assigned specific districts. Gary Least, I asked Gary to wave. Gary's been with us for 16 years. He is the longest tenured member of the branch. His districts are listed on this slide. Next slide, please. Marcus Highland's been with us 9 years. He's a licensed architect as well. He's had extensive experience in the private sector, providing architectural services to school districts prior to coming to KDE. His districts are also noted on this slide. Marcus, did you wave at folks? Thank you. Next slide, please. John Gilbert. John also is an architect. He's been with us 6 years. He too has extensive experience in private sector doing K-12 projects before coming to KDE. His districts are listed. Next slide, please. Teresa Hester. Teresa is a licensed interior designer. She's been with us 3 years. And prior to that, she was with another government agency where she had extensive experience in property. Next slide, please. Last but not least, person we say is glue that sort of holds us together is Tanisha Keene. Tanisha, did you wave? Thank you very much. She's been with us for 4 years, and she came to us from another government agency, and she is what we call our Fact Pack guru. If you have any questions regarding Fact Pack, you need to get in touch with Tanisha. Next slide, please. So here are some definitions that you will see the terms in various locations throughout the presentation, statutes, the regulation. So real property. Real property is land and anything permanently attached to it, such as buildings and fixed equipment, natural resources within the substrate like minerals such as coal, oil, and gas, and the airspace above it. Fee simple title. That's the most extensive form of property ownership, which grants the owner complete and unrestricted rights. Fee simple title requires that mineral rights have not been severed from the surface rights. Easement. Easement's a property right granting a legal right to cross or otherwise use someone else's land for a specified purpose, often involving compensation. In terms of school districts, circumstance involved will depend on whether compensation is needed or not. Fair market value, FMV. It's the value of real property based on an appraisal performed by a real property appraiser licensed to practice in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Appraisal, an assessment of the fair market value of property by an authorized person having a designation from a regulatory body governing the appraiser's jurisdiction. In this case, it's the Commonwealth of Kentucky under KRS 324A. Backpack, facilities planning and construction. That's our SharePoint-based system through which we administer construction and property transactions. DFP, everybody should be familiar with this term. That means District Facilities Plan. Next slide, please. The Constitution of Kentucky. It's the highest authority. Sections KRS 180, 184, and 186 address the use of taxes levied and collected for the benefit of public education. There are multiple opinions of the Attorney General and case law that establish a fair market value criterion regarding the purchase and disposal of real property and the use of school funds. Statutes, opinions of the Attorney General, AGs, and case law can be found in Kentucky School Law Book and the KDE website, as can be the sections of the Kentucky Constitution. Next slide, please. Statutes relative to property. KRS 162.10010 says the title to all school property owned by a school district is vested in the Commonwealth for the benefit of the District Board of Education. That's why we collect all this information for record-keeping purposes. Statute requires that fee simple title be obtained, whether by purchase, condemnation, or otherwise. The exception to that is land received from the federal government or any agency thereof can be received in other than fee simple with the approval of the Attorney General. This is rare. I've seen it in one specific instance. KRS 162.030, condemnation of property for school purposes. Board of Education, when unable to make a contract satisfactory to the board with the owner for the purchase of real estate to be used for school purposes, can initiate condemnation proceedings pursuant to the Eminent Domain Act of Kentucky. Statutes identified here. And again, title to the land shall so be obtained, it shall be in fee simple title. Eminent domain is administered at the local level. It is not administered by KDE. However, the property will have to comply with the requirements of 702 KR 4:050. Next slide, please. KRS 177.057, required consultation for highway access, requires a local public school district to consult with the transportation cabinet before purchasing property for the construction of the school facility. KRS 160.160 Section 8 is relatively new. It is interesting, and it is related to disposal of surplus property. However, if it's used in exchange to acquire property from a government or quasi-governmental agency, that option is available, and we are seeing that in a couple instances recently. Should surplus property be exchanged, it does require that disposal be reported to us pursuant to 702 KR 4:090 Section 4. Next slide, please. So this KRS 161.878 relates to open records. Basically, this says that, conversations about property acquisition by a local Board of Education are not subject to open records until such time as that property has been acquired. However, the exception to open records is the law of eminent domain is not affected by this provision. So that means that any eminent domain actions have to be done in open meetings. Next slide, please. Legal acts. Everybody's familiar with House Bill 678, 727. The portion of that applies to property acquisitions is that KDE has 30 business days to approve or disapprove transactions. Approved requests shall be reported to the Kentucky Board of Education. We do that every 2 months. At the same time, we report how long it takes us to do that. We recently did an evaluation of our performance, and we are operating at 99%, being able to approve complete property transactions within that 30 business day window. Next slide, please. So to the meat of the presentation, which is the regulation itself, 702 KR4:050, building sites inspection approval. This is a two-step process. It's initiated by a written request from the Board of Education to KDE for a site inspection. This written request should include the purpose of the acquisition, whether or not it's on the district facilities plan or not, current owner, the address, and the acreage. On receipt of this written request, we will conduct an in-person site inspection of a site proposed for a new school and coordinate that inspection with KYTC in the district. However, at our discretion, if it is what we're going to refer to currently as a minor project, we may conduct a virtual site inspection. Next slide, please. So following the site inspection, we will issue a tentative approval letter or disapprove the site. Disapproval is rare, but I have disapproved a site on occasion. Tentative approval letter will provide a brief description of the site and contain a request for discussion regarding the proposed funds that are going to be used and how that would relate to the DFP and the BG1 that's used to administer the process. It will contain a statement that KDE cannot approve a purchase price that exceeds a diminished amount of the fair market value established by the appraisal. A statement regarding KDE review, identification issues, and possible additional steps required. We've recently changed the format that we use. The letter itself is rather general. However, it will have the following attachments: a checklist that identifies the items that are required for final approval. It'll have an attachment talking about the fact pack submission process and how those documents are to be uploaded to the SharePoint site. It will provide template letters for the district's use regarding roadway adequacy and funding commitments for the improvements in the right-of-way. Next slide, please. So these items correspond to the items on the checklist. The title opinion, a letter from an attorney stating fee simple title can be obtained. Title opinion needs to be for a period of 60 years. Mineral rights aren't acquired, then a forbearance agreement shall be required. Commitment for title insurance and the current appraised value of the property. A plat survey that is current within 24 months of the transaction has to be performed by a professional land surveyor licensed in the Commonwealth and include the information that is listed below. Next slide, please. Item number 4, utility assurance letters. Water, adequate water for domestic and fire suppression shall be available. It includes volume, flow, and pressure, power, and sanitary sewage, either that can be connected to a municipal system or a package treatment plant pipe to a blue line string. Item number 5, roadway adequacy and funding commitment letters. These are the template letters that I referenced earlier, requesting a funding commitment for improvements in the right-of-way, confirming the roadway in fact is adequate for the proposed traffic. These sites are subject to transportation cabinet school site process, which may include a requirement for traffic volume counts or an engineering study performed by the district, design and the estimated cost of proposed site improvements. It's going to be either state or locally maintained. KDE provides templates to the district. Next slide, please. Potential environmental or safety hazard letter from an architect or engineer regarding presence of any potential environmental or safety hazards within the vicinity of the site itself. Next slide, please. Schematic site plan that can demonstrate that the site can support the proposed facility. This is not unlike private sector work where appropriate due diligence is needed to determine that the site can be used for its intended purpose. In the case of schools, we need to know the location of the school. We need to know the roadway ingress and egress and how that would relate to either KYTC or local governments. Should show the interior vehicular circulation and parking, required play areas, any extracurricular athletic fields or other proposed development. And confirmation, this is very important, that car traffic will not stack on the public right of way at peak times of use. So there's a related regulation, 702 KR4:170, Part 2. There's specific requirements for site development. Next slide, please. Item 8, site development cost analysis. A geotechnical investigation, which includes a minimum of 4 holes, borings, if you will, and any additional if required, depending on the specific site. Costs for mass excavation, which would include rock excavation, rock removal, cut and fill, whether the site's balanced or not, whether you're going to have to truck in, fill, or take it away from the site. That cost needs to be informed by the geotechnical investigation. Cost of bringing utilities to the site, if any easements would be required to extend facilities to the site. Next slide, please. Certification. Written certification by the Board of Education at all reasonable sites have been reviewed and a decision made not to pursue those. The certification shall provide a list of the sites and the reasons that those sites were not found to be acceptable. The appraisal, performed by a certified general real property appraiser, commissioned by the district, should be current within 24 months of the proposed acquisition. And this is an important thing to note. If SFCC funds are going to be used for the purchase or to be reimbursed for the purchase, SFCC shall be contacted for a list of approved appraisers. Next slide, please. Proposed purchase agreement. The Board of The Board of Education should be identified as the buyer. And again, a reminder, KDE cannot approve a property acquisition when the proposed purchase price exceeds the fair market value as determined by the appraisal by more than the de minimis amount. This is not subject to waiver, approval by KBE or anyone else. Thank you. Next slide. So after we receive the required documents, if they're compliant with the stated requirements, that represents a complete submittal. And as we stated earlier, pursuant to House Bill 678-727, we have 30 business days to approve or disapprove. However, this does not include actions that might be required by the Kentucky Board of Education or for approval. That would include any waivers to the regulations that district petitions the board for, or approval of the site acquisition for which the acquisition cost and site development cost exceed 10% of the maximum project budget. Next slide, please. Final approval. KDE will issue final approval after all the required documents have been submitted, reviewed for substantial compliance with the regulation, and KBE has approved any waiver approvals or required approvals. Any waiver request, should say. And the reason that BG1 and BG5 is here, those documents are included in the process. Next slide, please. Best practices. Excuse me. The district should designate a person responsible for administering the process. This process ideally would have FactPack access so that they can upload the documents. Any consultants needed should be engaged early in the process, and that would be ideally upon receipt of the tentative approval letter. An attorney will be involved, a surveyor will be involved, and an appraiser will be involved in any proposed acquisition. Others may be needed, such as geotech, environmental consultants, if necessary, and so forth. The progress of the district's consultants should be periodically checked, and the documents evaluated for compliance using the site acquisition checklist before submitting them to us. If you got any questions about any of the requirements, you should consult with your project manager assigned to your district. Next slide, please. The district's and sellers' expectations regarding the length of the approval process should be managed based on the specific issues that the site itself presents, the time required for the district's consultants to provide the required documents, the time needed to resolve any issues that you at the district level or KDE review might need to be resolved, any actions that might be needed to modify the district facility plan if restricted funds are needed for the purchase and the property is not related to a need identified on the district facility plan. Again, we have up to 30 business days to review, and any actions that might be required by KBE, they only meet every 2 months. Waiver request and approval request are due 45 days before the KBE meetings. This can significantly impact the time for approval. Next slide, please. Okay, here are the frequent issues that we encounter. General compliance. Failing to comply with a regulation, specifically executing a purchase agreement without our knowledge or our approval. Site acquisition checklist requirements not reviewed before submitting them to us, and we have to turn around and send them back to you. Not following the FactPack submission process. Documents are not numbered or titled, or sending documents by email outside the FactPack process, or representing submittals are complete when they aren't. Next slide. As I've alluded to, the time required to complete the site acquisition process can vary very widely. It's dependent on how efficiently the district administers the process at the local level and if KBE actions are involved. We recently administered a relatively simple acquisition during the month of August. However, the board was highly motivated. It involved 2 special board meetings. We recognize that many districts don't want to do that. So the regulation provides the option or the ability for the district to get an option to purchase. Frequently, these options to purchase are not long enough, and they should take into consideration how long the process, might take. We've recently seen closing schedule before we had time to review. Again, a reminder, we've got up to 30 business days. Waivers and approvals require KB action to impact the approval process. Request to waive regulations require approval by KBE. One of the things that we frequently see are easements that traverse the site. KDE has a new waiver process. District can find more information in relevant forums on the KDE Kentucky Laws and Regulation webpage, and these forms should be submitted to the KDE waiver request inbox. Site acquisition cost plus site development cost exceeding 10% of the project require KBE approval. So again, all these things impact the time required for the process. Next slide, please. Title opinion. So this is a frequent issue. Attorney letter not explicitly stating that fee simple title is available. We frequently see 30 years and not 60 years. 30 years for residential, 60 years is based on finance cabinet and other state property requirements. Title abstract, ownership history, and so forth are not acceptable in lieu of the attorney letter. Neither is a commitment for title insurance. Not addressing the exceptions that are identified in the commitment for title insurance. Commitments for title insurance, not in the amount of appraisal or that accept mineral rights. Next slide, please. So frequent issues continued. Plat and survey notice preliminary, not stamped, sealed, or signed, not providing certification regarding 100-year floodplain. And statements such as the following, I call these COIA statements. Property shown hereon is subject to any and all legal easements and rights of way, recorded and unrecorded, including but not limited to those shown hereon, and any and all facts that may be disclosed by a full and accurate title search. Next slide, please. So with items 1, 2, and 3, title opinions, commitments for title insurance, and surveys, these documents have to provide consistent information. The attorney and the surveyor have to talk with each other. Now, the district needs to administer these things to see that they do provide the consistent information. Next slide, please. Utility assurance letters, not addressing specific requirements identified, such as adequate water supply for domestic and fire protection system. We've witnessed the need later for fire pumps or storage tanks in order to supply the water needed for the fire suppression system. That needs to be identified up front during the acquisition process because it impacts the cost of development. Funding for right-of-way improvements. Districts are constitutionally prohibited to pay for improvements in public rights-of-way. For state-maintained roads, the Secretary's discretionary fund has a maximum limit for a school project. My understanding is that currently it's $350,000. The estimated cost of the work is above the limit. District may need to seek specific funding from the legislature for the transportation cabinet budget improvements needed. City and county governments may balk at making a funding commitment. That's because they don't specifically provide this kind of thing in their budget. So when you send a request to confirm roadway adequacy and a funding commitment to your local authorities, you need to have a conversation with them. Next slide, please. Environmental issues. Existing buildings and sites have been developed or previously developed may have environmental concerns, and we may ask you for a phase 1 environmental site assessment. We've seen geotechnical investigations that are not informed by a schematic site plan. Random borings across the site and the borings not within the building footprint. That's not acceptable. How can you figure out how to design your building footings if you don't have borings in the footprint? And the cost opinions must be informed by the geotechnical investigation and any hazardous material remediation cost. Appraisals don't address the presence of hazardous material are a factor in the cost of remediation when determining the fair market value. If remediation is required, those hazardous materials must be remediated prior to the purchase, or the estimated cost of remediation must be considered and reduced from the purchase price. We've seen board certifications that don't provide the reasons that other sites weren't acceptable, certificates of title insurance that don't match the appraisal amount, and districts not submitting the executed. Okay, next slide. So follow-up. Districts are required to submit the executed deed and certificate of title insurance 30 days after closing. Frequently, we have to reach out and ask for that. We also experience, after a site acquisition process has been initiated, the districts don't tell us when they've decided not to pursue it anymore. So for us, it's open on the books and it needs to be closed, and districts need to tell us when they, stop pursuing an acquisition. Next slide, please. So I got a couple of quick examples here of the documents I referenced. Let's look at the first one, please. Next slide. So this is the site acquisition checklist. You'll see the itemized numbers. KDE will strike those things. Excuse me, wrong checklist. So this is the FactPack submittal checklist. This needs to be followed to ensure efficient submittal of documents. Next slide, please. This is the acquisition checklist. So the items that identified in the PowerPoint conform to the items on this checklist. You'll see that item number 4 in this specific example was marked out. We try to strike things that we don't think would be needed for a specific acquisition. In this case, it was for a parking lot within an urban area. So we felt like the utility assurance letters were not needed. So we eliminated that requirement when we sent the checklist out. The blank line at the top should be filled out by the district, what the district is and what the property address is. Next slide, please. So this is what the first page of a tentative approval letter looks like. The information that we ask is in the reference lines, and we typically provide a satellite image, identify the property, and on the second page, we provide the cautionary statements that I went over earlier. Next slide, please. So this is the FactPack process used to upload documents. Again, if you have any issues about user access or the process itself, you need to contact Tanisha. Next slide, please. So tried to keep it at 30 minutes, didn't quite make it. John, were there any questions?
No, we have no questions at this time.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you all again for attending. Next slide, please. We're going to have property part 2, which is going to deal with surplus property, recreational facilities, and some other possible property things, including KRS 160.168, which is the government and quasi-governmental disposal. So again, please reach out to us with any questions. Survey is forthcoming. Please fill it out. We hope this was beneficial, and join us on November 20th. Thank you very much.
Oh, wait, hold on. I did get one question, and it's asking if this presentation will be shared. Tanisha, will this be up on our website?
Yes, it'll be put up on our website in approximately a week or 2 weeks. Within 2
Okay.
weeks, that is.
Yeah. And if you're unfamiliar with getting the KD website and finding out where these trainings are, just feel free to contact Tanisha or your project manager, and we will direct you in the right place.